Welcome Year 10s to this final video in your bivariate data topic. In this one, we're going to look at something called time series, which is not much different to what you've already been doing with scatter plots. The only thing with time series is that we're going to be working with time series data. We're going to be working, with data that's got time as a variable. Now, with that time variable, what you want to make sure you always do is pop it onto the x-axis. So the explanatory variable for time series, the explanatory variable, the one that we call EV, or that goes on the x-axis in time series data is always time. So if you have a look on here, I've got share price, and then on the month along the bottom here, so therefore time period, I've got that on that EV axis, which is this one here. Now you can have anything that's been plotted against time. So this one here is just a share price. We're going to see in a moment a number of teachers, male and female. You could have temperature. You could have loads of different response variables that can be on your y-axis, obviously. Now they can also be, because they are basically just a scatter plot, you'll see the only difference really is that we connect those dots together so that we can better see any little fluctuations that might be happening over time. So what you can do with your scatter plot on your calculator is if you press menu and then plot type and just select this one, the XY line plot, it'll connect your dots together for you. I'll show you that shortly with the example I've got over the page. So with any scatter plot we've been looking at, we have been looking for patterns. We've been looking for whether a correlation exists. Now with time series, it's slightly different. We don't talk about correlation, we talk about trend. So is there something happening with the data? Is it moving upwards or is it going downwards? So if you have a look here, we've got the data here in blue and it's a little bit jagged. We call these little fluctuations are actually referred to as irregular or random fluctuations. You can have fluctuations that are regular, and we actually call that seasonality, but that's something you won't look at until year 12. So you'll also see that we can put a trend line, so like a regression line, a least squares regression line. We can put that on time series data as well. But for now, let's just consider that this trend, or we can see that the dots are rising over time. So this would be called an upward trend. Now, instead of upward, I'll give you another word. We sometimes call it increasing trend. You can see they mean the same thing. They're drifting upwards, or the values of the RV, this variable over here, are increasing over time. And then the opposite's true as well. If you put a line on there and you can see it's got a negative gradient, or you can see that the dots are sloping downwards, we call that a downward trend, or decreasing. Just squeeze that in there. So we don't really tend to talk about it in terms of correlation here, because we are just looking for whether some data is moving over a time period. Now, we want to be able to create one of these on our calculator, on our scatter plot that we have. So what you need to do when you have time series data, just like you do any other bivariate data, is make sure you enter all of your data into your calculator. Now, we're actually going to create two time series graphs, but we're going to put them on the same set of axes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put year on my x-axis, as it always does, but then I'm going to have two variables, two y variables, or two RVs. So I'm going to have a look at male, or number of male teachers, and this is measured in thousands, over this time period, so from 1993 to 2001, and I'm going to see the same for females, and I'm going to be able to compare those two. So to do that, we would go to our calculator, and I'll just open mine up now. And what you'll notice is I've put three columns, one labeled year, and I've put that data in. Males I've put in, and females as well. So if you'd like to pause here and do that yourself, that might be helpful so you can follow along. Now, once you've got your data entered, you're going to press on Control I, and you're going to select Add Data and Statistics. That's where we create a scatter plot. You'll see you get these random dots come up, so don't worry about them. You're going to click on this bit, click to add variable. That's our x-axis. Now time always goes on the x-axis, so time here is year, so I'm going to select that. Now you'll notice here that all those time values, 93 up to 2001, have been put on this number line, but now I need to add my other variable. So I might just start with males. And as you can see, we've got a scatter plot now of the male values that I put in and year. Now, just like before I mentioned, we can change this so that it is a time series. A time series should have these connected with lines. So we'll go menu, plot type, and then number 6, XY line plot. And there we have it. Now, we didn't want just males. We wanted females as well. So all we have to do to get another graph, we actually go menu and then plot properties number 2. And if you have a look down here at number 8, add Y variable. And that will take you back to this menu and allow you to add a second one. So now I will add females. And it's really cool because then it shifts the scale so that it's appropriate. So you'll notice before it looks like the male graph sort of sloped downwards and then upwards. Now it's a bit harder to see on this scale because now we have the females plotted as well. So the scale along here had to change, and we've got females, as we can see, much higher numbers. But now we can look at trend, because if you have a look at this male one, it's pretty flat. So that's not really changing that much over time. We could say that sort of between 93 and 97, there was a slight downward trend and a very slight upward up to 2001, but it's so slight. So you can use that word slight when you are writing about it. For the female though, it's a different story, because if we have a look here, we're starting off at about 140,000 teachers. Remember, this was in thousands. So approximately 140,000, and that is steadily increasing. And in 2001, we're at roughly 172,500. So there is a very clear upward trend or increasing trend for the females, whereas for the males, it is very flat. And so back here, where we're asked to describe any trends we see, we can say the number of male teachers between 93 and 2001 was relatively unchanged. Only very slight downward trend to, and we'll just check what year, to about 97. We've got 74.9, 74.9, so it was the same, and then very slight upward trend from there. And I'll say from 97 to 2001. But we know the other one, the number of female teachers had a clear upward trend, and that's between 93 and 2001. It steadily increased, so there wasn't any decreases in there. From, and I'll just say approx, we had 140,000 in, 93, to 172,500 in 2001. And I'll just double check my numbers again. Yeah, 172.5 there, and just under 140,000 there. So there's a description of the trends that we see from the two graphs. So we discuss them separately. Okay, I'm going to stop there so that you can have a go at some of the exercises for time series, and then you'll be able to do a little bit of a recap, a revision of the topic using your chapter review before your assessment. Thanks very much, Year 10s, for watching the videos and following along with this topic. Remember to ask your teacher if you need any extra assistance.